Hello and welcome along. It is the Wedding Help NI podcast. My name's Dale Thomas. We're at the Beach Lawns Hotel here in Belfast. And if you're into weddings, this is the podcast you have to be listening to. It's all about weddings. It's from Northern Ireland's largest online platform, Wedding Help NI, of course, on Facebook, and the website www.weddinghelpni.com. My guest on episode 8 is Catherine, and from Enchanted Travel by Belle. Catherine, welcome along. How's things?
Things are good. It's Enchanted Travels with Belle. We had a practice of that, but you
we
nearly
didn't,
got
and
it.
I clearly got it wrong. So it's Enchanted Travels with Belle.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did that name come along?
So Belle's my middle name. I thought Enchanted Travels with Catherine didn't sound as good.
So there we go, Enchanted
Travels with Belle. And really, I wanted something that sounded a little bit different, that wasn't so boring.
Perfect. How did it all start? How did it all come about? What were you doing before you got into travel? Take us right back to the start. Tell us.
So I actually first got into travel when I was 18. So my dad had passed away. And at the time, I was in Jordanstown training to be a youth worker. And I chose to do my elective placement in South Africa.
Right.
So I lived in South Africa for a while. And really, there I caught the travel bug. And from there, I traveled extensively every year of my life. But I actually, after that, was working in the NHS in Southampton and London. And I was working very differently. So I was in neuro teams dealing with brain surgery patients who were young adults, and then in transplant teams. But then my mum took unwell, so I moved home here. And really, when I moved home, I had to think about what I could do, that I could work from home, that I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And it was very obvious to me that that would be travel, because...
What part of the country are you based in as well?
So that's a funny answer, because I got married a couple of years ago and my husband's from Monaghan, so he has a home there. I'm and Mummy, where we're kind of looking after her, is near Portstewart, and then we have our husband and wife houses in Belfast.
Right, so
you could
be anywhere.
I could be anywhere. So I travel all over the place throughout the week. So that's kind of, I'm always traveling.
What's your favourite? Monaghan, Belfast, Portstewart? I'm going to say with travel, it has to be Portstewart.
So I do love the North Coast, but through our wee community as well, I really look forward to my time in Belfast, because I'm having coffee with Naomi, who you had as your last guest.
Yeah, of course.
From Brook Avenue, and so I enjoy coming to Belfast too. And I would say I have two homes now.
Yeah.
We don't go to Monaghan as often because we're looking after Mum, but I'm sure that will change in time too.
And you made a good point there as well. Of course, it's good, Belfast or even anywhere in NI, there's always lots of vendors, and even in the Wedding Help NI page, we have our wee community, but we have a background community with all our vendors. Have you found that good for your business?
Oh, it's been the best part. So really for me, if I was to give advice to anyone coming into the wedding industry, it would be make some friends.
Yeah.
And I think for multiple reasons, any business can be hard, but in the wedding industry, obviously, it's a little bit unique. And if you have friends that kind of navigate your way in the beginning, it just makes it so much easier. And also then, you can have fun along the way too.
Yeah. And do you know what? I think it's always good to have that wee bit of advice. The advice is it's so important. Or just to sort of vent to somebody, even just venting with somebody. So we'll take it back. You got you came along and you ended up then, you wanted something and you could work from home. So it ended up then, you stumbled upon travel. Is that travel?
Well, it was the obvious choice for me, because that's the thing I've done my whole life, aside from working in the NHS, was travel. And I've traveled all over the world. So I had a lot of experience in travel. So there wasn't really another option for me. That's my passion. And And in life, when anything goes wrong or anything's going well, my answer to it's always to go somewhere.
Yeah, and how did you stumble then to come from travel to go into the honeymoon sort of sector? And because even you were saying, like we were chatting before the podcast, honeymoons as your main,
Yes.
you can do travel for normal holidays, but you really specialize in
Well, I
honeymoons.
love a honeymoon. And I do, like, I have clients who use me for regular travels, actually. Some of my honeymoon clients' parents now come to me,
Brilliant,
that kind of generational thing. They like the bit of extra support. So I love honeymoons because it kind of like incorporates a little bit of my old job, which was like supporting people. And I think when you're planning a honeymoon, it's not like you just want to walk in, sit down, have it organized inside 2 minutes.
Yeah,
You want someone who cares about your wedding. You want someone who cares about your dream honeymoon. So I can support them in making the best choice of destination and work with them to kind of refine the hotels that suit them best and kind of create the perfect kind of trip. So I love it because it's the best way to kind of work with people.
but as you were saying as well, even for somebody getting married or even just going on a holiday and booking with a travel agent, or maybe not a travel agent, what we call it, but booking with yourself, it really, you're not going to cost any more money because you're getting
No.
these things at trade price, and
Yeah.
isn't that right? in what
So
I'm
on a
saying?
very simple level, you can go on to the Jet2 website, or I can go on to the Jet2 trade site and get you the holiday. So it's the same for cruises. If we were to go on to like celebrity cruises, you could book on the website, or I could go onto the trade site. So that's it on a simple level. That's how my business works. All the different travel consortiums have their own kind of commission levels. Some maybe not everyone has the same kind of price parity, but a lot can, and a lot will do their best.
Yeah.
Well, you can see very quickly if it's the same as the website.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of what I do is actually creating what I would call like extraordinary journeys. So a lot of my honeymoon clients come to me and it's not one place, it's like 4.
Yeah.
So
And I suppose that reassurance as well it's a big
Yeah.
thing as well. I think, especially with a honeymoon, it's
Yeah.
You actually made a good point. After your venue, it's probably the most expensive
Yeah.
thing that you'll think me on as part of your wedding.
like on a simple level, like you get atoll protection, which is obviously very important. I'm also part of the travel trust, so you also get travel trust protection, which is like your money's in a trust account. But also, I have had a client last year who was in love with a hotel in Hawaii. And I have like a recommended list, and she wanted to kind of deviate it because she really wanted this particular hotel. And she got there, and it was a 5-star hotel, and there were issues, and I moved her. So
Yeah.
on a simple level, if something goes really wrong, I'm there on the end of the phone. And
Aye.
actually, it's one of my favorite parts is getting the photos while people are away,
Yeah.
because I can live vicariously through them,
And as you say, you love travel and you
I
love
love
seeing new
travel.
places.
So, when someone's hopping around, I love seeing the new places. I love seeing like the photos of the room tour. And I love seeing kind of, especially when someone's just got married, that like couple photo of where they're away and they're really happy. Because it's also like in the wedding experience, it's the only really private one that people have.
And I think, and I say this to every bride on the wedding day, I'll do my show, and I'll say, have you any honeymoons planned, or have you anything planned? Now, a
Yeah.
lot of them might not be going on honeymoon for months and months.
Yeah, very popular.
But even a night away somewhere or something,
Yeah.
just because after a wedding or on that wedding day, it's just been there's so much of a build up, and you know what? Even it's just a night away at a hotel, just to bring everything back to normality and get yourself just relaxed again, because there's so much on the wedding day. There's so much going on. This is going on. That's going on.
There is.
So it's nice just to get a bit of a break as well,
And I actually don't advise people leave the day after. So I got married myself 2 years ago, and we had a day 2. We had a day 1 and a day 2, and I was so tired that I got my phone and I checked into Harvey's Point for 3 nights, and I shut the door.
Yeah.
And I had like room service. I mean, I was totally exhausted because before the wedding, you have all the fittings. You have everything going on. And actually, if someone wants a very active honeymoon, I always make them wait a few days.
Do you know what? That's so clever.
Yeah.
Like, and as you say, after the wedding, like you were saying, you checked on the Harvey's Point just to bring it back down.
Exactly,
You know, that sort of just to relax and sort of get your bearings again after the big day.
Which we all need. And it's kind of like one of those things. If you go on honeymoon, what I say to my couples is, you know, if they're going somewhere really fancy or really nice, are they going to be like awake enough to enjoy it because they're paying for it?
And do you know, even maybe having a few days beforehand off your work, so you're completely relaxed. So if you're going to be traveling for, you know, if you're going to be traveling for 12 or 13 hours or maybe more, like, you know,
some people travel more,
that you're sort of prepared for that travel and you're not landing your destination and you're just exhausted. So that's I suppose that's really important.
Yeah.
We were chatting as well about a game. So we were
yes,
so
we'll
we were
call it a game.
we're saying different times a year for different locations.
Yes. I'm saying you tell me. So probably what the easiest thing for listeners is to kind of try and imagine how it works in a consultation. When I do a consultation with couples, generally both of them come along, and the first kind of like conversation we have is about where they're going to go, obviously, and like picking, sometimes it's not one place, it's 4 places, but we need to get a route that's kind of appropriate weather-wise. And also, if they have a dream destination that is in rain season, we need to kind of delay the honeymoon, so talk about when it's appropriate for them to go. So I was saying what might be helpful for listeners if they can kind of see how that works. So what month did you get married?
Well, you actually, before this podcast started, we should say you actually got on to me because I said we never actually had a proper honeymoon. We went
There's
away.
There's always time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So Jamie's going to watch this now. Jamie, my wife's going to watch this now and say, "You're right. We never had a proper honeymoon."
Well, I did hear you say that you went to Las Vegas.
Do you know what? We went to Las Vegas, and it was probably it was
very
ages.
Popular this year.
Ages after the wedding. And I think the August we got married, it was just after COVID, and weddings were mad. I was doing
Tough
so many
time for a
weddings. I
vendor.
got married on a bank holiday Monday, and I was actually gigging the night before my wedding. And I was gigging then. I got married on the Monday and I was back working on the Wednesday.
Your wife is a saint.
I know. Don't tell her, but...
She is, though. I think I would have had end guts for garters.
Don't tell her. But, so literally, we went away in the January then, and we just... And do you know what? I was working as well. We were in Tenerife, but I was working, doing gigs, and we went then to Vegas. I'm going to say we went to Vegas like October time or something.
Yeah.
Then the following. So it probably wasn't ideal, but you know, you're chatting about honeymoons, and I would love to do like a lovely holiday, like, you know what. But it's probably like for me, and maybe this is the same for all people getting married. It's probably January or something like that would be my. You know, and there's people like that as well. You know?
Let's talk about January. So lots of people are quite hesitant about January. It's my favourite time of year to plan a honeymoon.
Right.
For various reasons. There are so many options. So like the Indian Ocean. So the Maldives is great that time of year. Sri Lanka, which is so popular. Obviously, Mexico, which does the best all-inclusive in the world. Yeah. It's great that time of year. So is the whole Caribbean. All the kind of like Thailand, all the more tropical destinations.
Yeah.
That's when you go. So a lot of people come to me in July and August, and those are their dreams.
Aye.
And like I have to alternate them. So a lot of people who love Thailand, they can do Bali in July and August because that's their dry season. It's kind of unique. But the Maldives is a real kind of standout one where you can't really alternative it. There's not loads of overwater villas in other places.
And I suppose, you know, whenever you think about a honeymoon somewhere like the Maldives, where you see these, you know, you see the sort of videos and stuff on Instagram and TikTok and stuff of these hut, you know, the accommodation.
The overwater villas.
Maybe a slide down on the water and stuff.
Siam World. That's called Siam World.
But that's what I mean. Like, you know, you might see that and you really want to go there, but you're saying like July and August.
So
It's not that it's pointless, but
I would go in July and August. So there's a decision I always have with my couples is July and August is wet season. That is what it is. If I saw an offer for the Maldives in July and August, it's really hot. So I would maybe go and be happy with a little bit of rain. Normally 9 out of my 10 brides say absolutely not for a honeymoon.
Yeah.
And I would say no for my honeymoon. In fact, I did say no for my honeymoon because I got married myself in January. So I think it's one of those things where you don't want to pay to go to the Maldives on a honeymoon and experience just rain.
And that is it's an expensive holiday.
Yeah,
There's no way around that. Like it's it's an it's a once in a lifetime holiday.
Exactly. For a lot of people who go there, it's a really special trip. And the least I can do is give them, now it is a tropical place. I can't say a random storm's not going to hit it, but you don't want to purposely send them in rain season. And I think that's the thing. I met a lovely girl at the Ulster Museum wedding fair, and she was very upset because she'd booked her honeymoon already for July and August, and it's to the Maldives, and she didn't know it was rain season until she saw. I have a thing on my Instagram which is like weddings by month, honeymoons by month. Sorry, and it kind of explains, where's in wet, dry, all the kind of rest of it. And she was devastated. She was like, no one told me that.
And I suppose, having a honeymoon expert, because as we said, yes, you can book different styles of travel, but honeymoon is your thing. And having that bit of advice that a bride can get in touch and, give that you can give that bit of advice where somewhere like the Maldives, it's not suitable. Like not that it's not suitable, but there's
a choice, there's a decision.
This is the things that you're going to encounter. So, and we know as well that most people get married. Our wedding season is such. I would always say, it's sort of from April to September. Would you agree? So sort of April to September, October is our wedding season. So if you recommend going away in them seasons, what would your thing be there from like April to
So
September?
It's a little bit more complex than that. So somewhere, let's take the Seychelles and Mauritius by example. They are really good, like April, May, maybe even into June in some cases, but then Mauritius kind of goes to 22 degrees in July and August.
Right, so it's
a bit more complex than that, and then it goes back up in September and October. And the Seychelles is perfect whether its driest season is July and August, but actually it's got winds. So you kind of have to measure they're actually both best, like May, June, September, October, November. So it's a little bit more complex. You couldn't just go April to September and say all these places are really, really good. Obviously, even Europe, I would say I wouldn't send someone to Greece in April. It would be freezing.
Yeah.
Or even, October's a little bit different. You probably could go now, but it's a little bit more complex than just, half the year's this and half the year's that. Some of them, Sri Lanka and Mauritius have 2 different weather systems on both sides of it.
Yeah.
So when the east of it's doing one thing, the west of it's doing the other. So that's where it's not even about, I suppose, choosing a honeymoon specialist, it's about choosing someone who actually has knowledge of travel. And I think sometimes when people just see an offer online and go for it without asking any questions, they automatically assume that's good season because
I suppose anybody can, I'm not running down like a high street travel agent or whatever.
And there's lots of very good ones out there too.
But you can have like for example, manage your special honeymoon just up in the window, and maybe there's not much research. And you know what? That's probably not their fault either, because maybe they've just went on and they've seen and they go,
they saw that's a good offer and that's great.
It sounds a good offer. We can put that in their window, and then maybe customers are walking past and they're going, oh, that sounds good there. But as you say, somebody who maybe has a wee bit of knowledge on areas and on weather as well, because weather's a big thing. If you go away, you're coming home to your family, rain for most of the holiday. It's an awful thing to say, like, unless that's what you're looking for.
No,
It's,
and a really easy example is like so many people do Disney July and August in Orlando. Like you will see it's the most popular time to go. And actually it's technically hurricane season. It's 40 degrees and it's really humid and there's a high chance of rain. But nobody knows that the best time actually to go is Easter or Halloween.
Yeah.
And I've been to Orlando in July and August. I've done the 40-degree heat and I loved it, but I'm going back in Easter or Halloween because it kind of doing the parks, it was so tough.
Especially, I suppose, walking about and getting all that in. That's, you're literally, it might become uncomfortable as well,
Yeah.
and you don't want that whenever you're away. You want to enjoy every part of it.
I think traditionally so many travel agents have worked that people want to go on holiday July and August, and actually travel can be very expensive now in places, and I think I'm seeing definitely a lot of people are starting to shift to Easter, even families, Easter, Halloween, and think a little bit outside the box.
And touching on couples getting married, and as you said, we touched on it earlier in the podcast, getting married and going away a day later, 2 days later, it's probably not advisable. So,
No.
But is it bad to sort of say, all right, I'm going to have my honeymoon in 6 months' time, 9 months' time?
No,
Is that okay, or is that something you're seeing more common?
Well, I would say now as much as 50% of my clients don't honeymoon straight away in one form or the other. So in terms of if you book your honeymoon like 13 weeks after your wedding, you can use your wedding money to pay it off.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have that money up front to pay off before your wedding, which a lot of people love.
Yeah.
They can use their wedding money and have like a honeymoon fund, and that's really ideal. The other side of it is there's lots of people in love with the Maldives and unique destinations, and Mexico's so popular because the all-inclusive is like very high standard and the swim-up rooms are incredible. And I find especially those two destinations, I have people who get married in June. They do a little mini moon, whether it's at home or they go to Spain for a few days.
And the money moon, I think the money moons were, as you say, somewhere like Spain, or like if you're looking sort of a sun, you'll get sun in January in Tenerife or some of them Canary Islands.
Yeah.
So that's possible. Or like lots of people just find a nice hotel, or north or south, and go away for 2 or 3 days after the wedding.
I mean, I mini mooned in Harvey's Point technically, before I did my big honeymoon. And I think that's the thing. It's like your wedding day now. It's as unique as the couple, and you can do it whenever. I actually have a wedding supplier has come to me, Catherine, the wedding nanny.
Yeah.
And she's got married a few years ago, and she's doing her honeymoon this September.
But I think
So-
there's hope for you yet, Jamie. So
Yeah.
there's hope yet. You could get a honeymoon out of me yet, so you could. But no, there is that thing of, and I think as well, even having the honeymoon straight after the wedding, you have everything done. Everything's one and done. Whereas if you do leave it, 6 months, a year, that can be nice. It can be something then they
can be
they look
special.
forward to.
There's a few exceptions. I would say sometimes I have people who are teachers come to me. It's a little bit more complex because actually for them, if they have time off and it's school holidays, all the school holidays are kind of expensive for them, and sometimes they want to go get the rest. So what I do in that situation is I make sure the first 3 days are restful. So somewhere where they're not doing anything, and even if that's, they're going on to safari or they're going on to hike the Himalayas, whatever it is, I make sure the first 3 days are like R&R time.
Yeah.
And that is a way around it. There are people with restrictions. Sometimes, like I've had a couple of guys come to me and they're like, my work, everyone shuts down on these dates. These are the holiday dates for the year. And they just have to go with what those are.
What would your recommendations be for honeymoon, or is that a question that just you can't? Is there anywhere that you think, if you had to pick personally yourself? I know that's so hard to say because you want to recommend lots of things, but what would your favourite be personally from your
It's
of view?
hard because I don't want to, everyone has different budgets. And
Yeah.
some of the things that are coming to my mind, I'm like, I don't want to. So I suppose in Europe, my most popular destination is Greece. Whether you go to one place or whether you island hop it, Greece is always going to be one of the top places. It's absolutely stunning. The views are stunning. You can get all-inclusive hotels, you can get private pools, you can get all the kind of luxury
But
add-ons.
even there, you're saying about island hopping and stuff. You can look after all that because even
You can do every boat, every transfer.
I'm thinking about I'm just thinking about that in my head. And I'm thinking you get a flight out to Greece, but there is all that different things. So you need that, or you need to know where you're going and what you're doing. I suppose
so you
as
can
well.
fly from, for example, you can fly out of Dublin to Crete. And then you can hop on to Naxos, Paros. They don't have airports. Mykonos does have an airport, but there's no direct flight back here. And then you could hop the whole way to Santorini, and you can get a direct flight back to Dublin.
Right.
And really, I do every boat, every transfer, everything in that. And I've had quite a few people do that and love it. So in Europe, that's probably my top seller. I suppose further afield, it depends on time of year.
Yeah.
So Bali's really popular this year for the private pools. Thailand's really popular in January and February for the private pools and price. So if you're trying to save some money and you want the luxury, Bali and Thailand for the private pools. But I suppose if you were to ask me my favorite and my dream, it would be Kenya and the Seychelles. So safari is just one of those out of this world. Obviously, I lived in South Africa, so Africa's always going to have part of my heart, and I just think there's no kind of out of this world experience like it. And the Seychelles, my husband actually said when he was a kid, his parents used to talk about the Seychelles as that place that only superstars went to, because it was so unreachable. And now Praslin and Mahi are reachable, and you can island hop there, and it's just so I think that's, if you were to ask me to kind of pick one, that's what I'm going to say.
What about America and stuff as well? Is America, is it popular, or is it?
It's extremely popular because everyone twins it with Mexico.
Right,
you fly through America to go to Mexico. So I would say about 40% of my requests have America in them at the minute.
And of course, you can't do multi-cities too in America. You have that sort of that option as well.
You can do Vegas, New York, and Mexico.
Yeah.
You can do as many stops as hops as you want, really.
Yeah.
Comes down to budget.
It does, and that is the big thing as well. And I suppose if we touch on that a wee bit as well, on budgets, I suppose bringing that expectations is a thing as well. So, what would your advice be there to couples that, or maybe come and do, as it set a budget, what way do you work?
The first thing I do in a consultation, so I say to them, a lot of people write on my consultation forms, we don't have a budget. And I say everyone has a top number. We all have a number we can't go over. Because we do, you don't, I always say you shouldn't go into debt. You shouldn't be doing that type of thing. There are kind of ways around it if you want to put a deposit down and kind of pay it off after your wedding, like we talked about earlier. That's definitely a thing you can do. But budget for honeymoons is kind of like a budget for venues. There are some people where they've saved for their honeymoon, they want to use their wedding money on top. Yeah. And actually the honeymoon's more important to them than the wedding. And their budgets can be very high. And there's other people who just want to go on a Jet2 holiday or a 2 holiday for £2,000.
Yeah.
And there are lovely options out there for that.
So that is a thing that really, if somebody's coming to set it, try and set a budget, because it is important that you can maybe see stuff online and it looks amazing, but some of that stuff just is,
It's expensive, yeah. If we talk about Siam World, and you talked about the Maldives place with the slide.
Yeah.
The slide, it's very popular on TikTok. And you can't come to me with a budget for £2,000 and want to go there.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And that is the thing. It's kind of in all of wedding planning, and even in holiday planning, you can't go to Australia on
I
£2,000.
think probably the only thing about somewhere like there that you're saying, is it?
Siam World, yeah.
Siam World. What you're saying there, you probably don't need as much spending money in them holidays.
Yes,
Am I right in
so
saying that? Would that
Siam World is completely ultra all inclusive. The only thing you won't pay for a drink, it's dine around restaurants. So
Right.
like it's not a buffet, it's like a la carte dine around restaurants. If you wanted to go on like a diving trip, you maybe need money for that.
Yeah.
But there's no, that's it. It's kind of like it's an ultra all inclusive. Mexico's the same. The Maldives and Mexico are absolutely amazing for that.
Yeah.
So
Whereas I know, like even me and the wife were in New York at Christmas.
oh, it's so expensive now, isn't it? Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah.
like literally, even you get the holiday. We flew out of Dublin. I'd actually found a hotel, it was a lovely hotel. So it was just on Times Square and stuff. But the spending money was unbelievable,
Yeah, and the dollar against the pound is
you
not
really
good
don't
right
think
now.
about that.
Yeah.
And you know what? You probably have spent as much, but you could go to some of these resorts and at least you know that's what you're spending, and you'll
Yeah.
be able to advise couples then on the excursions and stuff that they'll do then out there.
I know pretty quickly based on the month. So Christmas is very expensive to go away. You really need to get in touch with me in January if you want to do December.
Yeah.
Unless you have loads of money because the flights book up so quickly. But like I've had someone do Siam World for 7-8 nights, 3 nights in Doha, and they spent like 6,700.
Right.
So it's not like, and they don't need much spending money with that.
But you know what? That's probably good. Like it's a lot of money. But whenever you take something like the American holidays,
Yeah.
going to Vegas or somewhere like that, you can spend so much on spending money. Like
Yeah.
because even eating in some of these, I mean like
America right now is very expensive. The conversion's not good.
even America, I think with like a fast food.
Yeah.
It's this, you're $100 just for like a meal, a fast food meal. Like,
Yeah, I've had a family went to New York for Christmas, and actually all of those things are issues because for them all to go out even on Christmas Day, like some of the Christmas lunches that they were looking at, it can be so expensive, and I think a lot of people like knowing. I don't send people to the Maldives on half board or bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
I won't because it's $50 a burger.
So you know that.
I know
you
that.
need that full. You need that all
You cannot
exclusive.
go to the Maldives unless you go all inclusive. Whenever I see offers online for half board, I'm like, those people will be crucified when they get there.
Aye.
They won't be able to cope because it's so expensive. You can't pay $50 for a burger with an add-on of fries.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't. You would spend
But
thousands.
if a couple's going out there, does it all exclusive? Do they get all the benefits? I suppose they do. They
Yes,
get all
as
the
long
benefits.
as you make sure, if you're going to the Maldives, I always say a few things. You need to make sure the transfer is included. So a lot of the resorts require a speedboat or a seaplane transfer. Most of them are seaplane. So if you see a deal and it doesn't have a transfer included, I'm worried. If it isn't all inclusive, I'm also worried because half board, as we've just said,
it's going to be scary.
drinks are so expensive, food's so expensive. It's not the place to go half board bed and breakfast. It's the place to go all inclusive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the best way to do it. Otherwise, you'll end up spending even more.
Perfect. And for couples getting married, where can they find all your stuff?
So they can find it. I live on Instagram, Enchanted Travels with Belle. You'll find me there. And I think if you search honeymoon specialist on Instagram, it comes up. You'll also find me on the Wedding Help website. I also have my own website. And I am on Facebook. I just don't use it very much.
And you'll be active on the Wedding Help.
Yes, I'm active. You definitely. If there's a honeymoon question, I always try and write a wee response of some sort. Yeah.
And there always is as well on the Facebook
Yeah.
group. You would always see.
At the minute, I can tell you actively this week, I have a consultation with a groom who is planning a surprise honeymoon.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
So brides and grooms have the honeymoon questions, and I actually think for grooms, it's a thing they don't mind doing.
Yeah.
If you think about it, would you mind planning a honeymoon? Probably not.
No, definitely. But as long as you have that advice, I think if you're
Yeah.
going to try it yourself, not the thing to do. But as
Yeah.
you say, whenever you have that backup, it's definitely worth doing.
It is, but it's not. A lot of men say to me, they're not really interested in picking flower colours.
No,
all of
definitely
those
not.
kind of-
Definitely not. Aye, definitely not.
But the honeymoon, it's like whenever I do wedding fairs, the men all come to me and chat.
Right. Aye,
They're
aye.
happy to chat for an hour about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
holidays. Like they don't
I
mind.
think weddings as well. The stuff like the flowers and stuff. Like Peter, I'm sure you'll agree with me too. We're not. With flowers and stuff. You're like, no.
Well, you don't know the difference between white and off-white.
Exactly. I don't have a clue.
Whereas I do, and I cared about all those things, but my husband absolutely could not have cared if I had purple, green, and yellow flowers.
Yeah,
He
it
didn't
all
care.
adds up.
No.
And tell me this: have you got a website or anything? Or
Yes, I do. Enchanted Travels with Belle.com.
EnchantedTravelsWithBelle.com. That's brilliant. Have we covered everything? Or is there
Yeah,
anything
I
else you
think-
want to get across?
No, I think we've covered it all, and I can't think of anything
I think that's
else.
a great insight. And do you know what I thought as well? The months as well, and getting the season right and making sure you're going away. So for any couples, I think getting married, that get in contact,
It's the
find
top
out
thing.
what works.
I have a big poster now at wedding fairs, and it's like honeymoons by month.
Yeah.
And it's the top thing people come over and say to me. They all stand there and they're like, a lot of times I feel like I break hearts because some people are in love with like the Maldives or say Thailand, and they're going away at certain times when it's wet.
Yeah, of
wet.
course, of course.
It's all. I do feel like that breaks hearts, but I feel it's important they know. I always say you can
Yeah.
go, you just need to know.
Of course. No, I think it's brilliant. I think so. We've got loads of information.
Yeah, we've got
I
it
think
all.
that was a great episode. That was Enchanted Travels with Belle. And bye for now. I hope you've enjoyed the episode.